as we welcome in our homeboy, the professor, Jason Jones of The Athletic.
Professor.
Hey, what's happening, my brother?
Nothing much. Can y'all actually hear me this time?
Oh, man, we hear you fantastic.
Yeah,
okay, man. You know, I've had a few struggles the last few weeks, you know.
That's why The Athletic was supposed to get you a new laptop.
Well, I got to wait another like 3 or 4 weeks. So, hey, it is what it is.
There's a waiting list for new laptops at The Athletic.
See, when your company gets taken over, when you get purchased by the Times,
yeah,
you know, I guess there's like computer bureaucracy now. I got to kind of go through this guy to get to this person.
Yep.
You know, and so now my computer's, you know, basically a crapshoot. It's like some days it's great. Other days, like yesterday when I needed it to work, it wouldn't work. But it seems to never want to do that when I'm in the middle of some work I don't want to do. It works just fine.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, it's just like if I said right now, I do not want to write this story, it'll work perfectly.
What's the story you're working on?
It's going to go crazy. So, hey.
Real quick before you ask me, I want to give a shout out to Karrison Vaughn, who's here to let us know Tennessee is east of Arkansas, which is right above Louisiana.
That's a deep cut for those who have been listening for 30, 35 minutes. We're a geography class here.
More than 30, 35. We're talking about an hour and a half, man.
We're a geography class here on D-Lo and KC for sure. What story are you working on?
Right now it's kind of like more just monitoring the playoffs. Got some stuff I'm not supposed to speak about yet, but I'm got some other stuff I'm doing. Former high school, college basketball players trying to start a real estate like a real estate company tailored straight to athletes. You know. Okay. You know, because it was amazing that even when I was covering the team, I'd have agents text me about where to live in Sacramento. I'm like, first, I don't live in Sacramento, so I don't know what to tell you. Two, why are you asking me? Like, the price range for what I'm looking at and what they're looking at are completely different.
Right.
Like, I want to be looking. They do not want to live. They don't want they don't want an apartment or a little nice little tidy house. They want space. I don't think De'Aaron Fox would have looked at me and been like, yeah, we can live in the same neighborhood.
Nah, some good stuff. So there's a bunch of things that we want to touch on with you, Jay. But the first one, with the most recent one, I made the statement, and I'd love to hear what you got to say about this. This is no disrespect to anybody. It's just the evolution of the game. Like, the greats would have been great regardless. You put Magic and Larry in 2010, they're still top 10 all-time greats. That's just how I view these things, right? But they didn't start playing defense in the NBA until about till 89, 90 with the Pistons, correct? They weren't playing no defense before.
Not true.
Stop it. We got the video. We got the video. They ain't playing no defense.
Guys were playing defense. So Bill Russell didn't play defense?
That's a different type of defense. Bill Russell was see,
I know who wasn't.
I'm not gonna say
Dr. J wasn't playing no defense.
No, because I looked at the 1980 Game 6 Magic Johnson, and there's a couple of times one time specifically when Bobby Jones is guarding Magic. He's 7 feet off of him, and he's got his hands on the tip. It's in the middle of the game.
They said Magic couldn't shoot. That's why. Probably, you know. And the thing is, you know, I've done a lot of research, reading about the Showtime era Lakers and that whole period. One of the things those teams take offense to is that they didn't play defense. He said they had a trapping kind of like scheme they called fist. They only called it about 25% of the time. But because when they did it, it was so crazy defensively, teams spent all their time preparing for fist, and they weren't going to run it all the time. So teams were playing. You can't get up and down the way some of those teams did without defense. You know, you got to get some stops eventually. You know, like that. I think Detroit was more physical. They were probably a more physical. Like, we're just gonna. I mean, they just beat up Michael Jordan. I mean, it wasn't even basketball. It was like, you gonna jump? We putting the forearm right in your chest.
It's interesting that you talk about the Showtime Lakers defense when when you think about, you know, toughness, the 80s, 90s, you're normally thinking about the Pistons, you're thinking about the Heat, and you're thinking about the Knicks. And in 2 of those cases, that means you're thinking about Pat Riley, the coach of the Showtime Lakers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy that people just, I mean, yeah, they definitely played defense before 1990.
They were like,
I think what happened was you got to the mid-90s, they let the game get so rough that, teams were scoring like 70 points in the playoffs. It'd be like a 80 to 76 game. Like, remember that? I forgot what game it was with the Bulls and the Jazz. The Bulls scored like 94 points and won by like 40. I mean, it was just you were allowed to be more physical back then, hand check, it was no big deal if a guy had, imagine if they wore like physio tape back then and what they would have done. I mean, back then, a guy says he has a bad hand. The way you tested it was you smacked the hell out of his hand. Nowadays, that guy be like, oh my God, you're a dirty player. But it was like back then, no. You came out here with you say your hand's not a little sore. Let's test the hand out real quick, see if you can really play through it. So they played defense. It just wasn't. Now, I mean, I actually prefer that kind of defense. I don't like watching zone defense in the NBA. I don't, it's not my favorite thing to watch. But hey, it is what it is.
As long as we don't go back to those Pacers-Pistons games from the early 2000s.
Ooh. You don't want to see 76-74 final?
Oh, they were hot if they were 76-74.
First team to 80 wins.
They playing like the big
score. The team that won had a high score with 17, and 3 guys supported him with 15 points. It was hard to watch. But then you go
sounds like the Miami Heat last night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what era we're in, someone's going to complain about something.
I love those guys, though. I love them. I love those the 80s and 90s. Great ball players. They just didn't play defense like we see today. It's a different time. Not like individuals, like Dennis Cooper, Dennis Johnson. Yeah, they play defense, but when I'm talking about like all 5 guys on the court, locked in, moving on a string, I feel like that started with Detroit.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Right.
Who's the best team left in the playoffs right now?
Oh, part of me wants to say the Warriors, but I don't necessarily believe I think they have the more favorable matchup right now. But I don't know if they're the best team. I don't know if they could beat Boston 4 times. I don't know if they could beat Miami 4 times. I mean, Dallas has been so undisciplined at times. Just defensive, like, hey, you gonna let Kevon Looney just become Wilt Chamberlain on you? You gonna do something? You gonna do something about that? I think they have the more, part of me wants to, because I think to me there's no team where I look at left where I say they don't have a flaw that could cost them a championship. I mean, as up and down as Bam Adebayo can be, I don't think if he's on, the Warriors can't stop him. I mean, you put Draymond on him, but okay, but then who are you going to put on Jimmy Butler? I guess you could use Wiggins, but still, I mean, part of me says the best team left is Boston, but Boston may not win this series. I mean, they're losing guys every other game, it feels like.
Right.
So, I mean, this is going to be one of those things where whoever's in the finals will be like, almost like whoever's like a lot of times, whoever's healthiest. Just because when I look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Marcus, I'm like, to me, that's the most talented team left. Because I would take their top 2 over everyone else's top 2. But then again, things get weird, Which Jordan Poole do you get? Do you get the 10-point Jordan Poole or the Jordan Poole who can't miss? Do you get, maybe a referee one day actually give Draymond his second tech for him? I mean, my God. That was a game 2. He should have been called about 7 times.
That was ridiculous.
Okay. It's like they give Draymond a tech. Like, okay, we gave him a tech. Now he's going to get 10 times worse, but we're just going to ignore
it. The crazy thing about it is when he gets 1 tech, that's his cue to turn up.
Yeah, it's the weird. Yeah,
even more.
He doesn't calm down with a tech. I got a tech. Okay. Oh, now I'm really on you. And the ref is like, okay, I shouldn't have given him. I mean, there's just so many, But like I said, I think the best team is probably Boston. But I don't know if that means they'll win a championship. But I think the best team is probably Boston.
Here's another a spin on that question a little bit that Jesse had. Boston makes it to the NBA Finals to play Golden State. is that the best team they've played in the playoffs? Is Golden State the best team Boston has played in the playoffs? To that point. I don't know. I was stuck on that because Golden State absolutely.
It could be Jason's point a minute ago. The answer might be the Bucks, but Chris Middleton wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's Miami. I think Golden State's better than Miami. It may very well be because they're the healthiest.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in a vacuum, Golden State is better than Miami. But if they played Miami, would I be shocked if Miami beat them? No.
Sure.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, this is like, that's why I'm really mad at Phoenix. Because they're about to, Dallas is about to get, every year or two, you get one team that advances really far that has no business being there. Just like
excuse me, what'd you say, Jason? Say that again they didn't hear you. Just say that the same exact thing. What you just said. Just
fall their way, and they're like, Phoenix couldn't shoot that bad in a game 7 again if they tried. They couldn't they couldn't try to be that bad. And then it was a cool story about, I said to myself, Warriors might win this in 5. Like, I just didn't think Dallas was ready. Because Dallas doesn't have, they don't have Tim Hardaway Jr. They don't have their, not that he was going to change the series, but it took,
let's be fair to Dallas, though. This is a 52-win team. This isn't like a team that snuck into the play.
Oh no, I'm not saying that about them, but they had no business.
They're not one of the top 4 teams.
They're down 2-0, and then Phoenix does what Phoenix does again to get eliminated.
Yeah.
I don't fault Dallas for that. You go win a game 7 on the road, you deserve to be there, but then you can't go up by 19 in game 2 and blow that game. And you just can't do all that to get the team like the Warriors, because they're going to give you that third quarter burst. If you're not ready, you're in trouble.
Here's what I say about Dallas, and I mean this respectfully. What they've done. No, I do, because they've done great with what they've been given. Are they a top 7 team in the NBA right now?
Oh, come on, man.
Well, they're one of the 4 left, so
one of the 4 left. That's different. Like when George Mason made the Final Four, were they one of the 4 best teams in college basketball?
Oh, don't disparage the good name of George Mason University.
Wow, George Mason just getting hit on for no. What did George Mason ever do?
Jeez.
They're over there still celebrating that run. Here comes Finney, reminding them they weren't really that good. Yeah, if I would have, even Jason Kidd kind of said it during his last presser, because he's like, "Hey, no one thought they would be there."
Hit him with Doc Rivers.
Hit him with Doc Rivers.
Nobody expected us to be here.
Like, come on, Doc. That's not true. But
come on, Doc. Everybody expected you to be here.
Yeah, poor Doc. When Doc went with the whole "my teams weren't that good" that blew the 3.
Oh.
I was like, Doc, sometimes it's better to let the media say it for you, because it just sounded terrible. Doc is like, look at my team. That team wasn't very good. Tracy McGrady and them were like, come on, Doc, what did we do? And you're chilling. You're just going to just dump on all of us. You guys weren't very good.
Hey, that's about to be your coach, I think.
Oh.
His name is Darvin Ham coaches the Sixers?
That's who it's gonna be. They're gonna go with Darvin.
Hey, okay.
I'm just guessing. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, good. Okay, good. That's a good segue here. Is Mark Jackson? Is his name still mentioned with the Lakers, or is that over?
It sounds like it's over right now.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm just gonna ask, barbershop talk here with the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any validity to this Mark Jackson stuff at all? Like, does anybody think Mark Jackson was really about to be hired as a head coach this year?
I think this was his best chance, I think, because of 2 of the openings. One being the Kings, and if Vivek decides to go that route with the Warriors, or the Lakers, because of even though I guess he's not with Clutch anymore, the Clutch connection, the whole LeBron. I think this was his best chance. But I just think too, some of that other stuff that he said back in the day and all that stuff, you hire Mark Jackson, you got to answer all that, all that stuff. Got to, people are going to want to talk about that. But I do think this cycle was his best chance.
Yeah.
And I look around the league. I don't know who else would hire him. I mean, if the Knicks didn't hire him,
right?
I don't know who else would hire him. The Pacers have. I try to think where maybe somewhere he played. I just don't know who would hire him right now. Because I think based on some of the things that have been said about him in terms of the whole morality type stuff and the comments about gays and whatnot, he can't go to some conservative, actually that might work in a more conservative area.
Yeah.
He can't go to like LA and not have that addressed. He can't go to, to New York and not have that addressed. And the question is who believes in Mark Jackson enough to let that happen, let that storm pass? Because when the Mavs hired Jay Kidd, you knew all the domestic abuse things from his past were going to come up. I mean, there was a school of thinking the Lakers would have hired him instead of Vogel if not for that stuff, because they didn't want to have to address that. Coming off of a situation too where Luke Walton leaves and Luke gets the stuff and it comes out, so are you willing to ride it out? Right now, I don't think anyone's willing to ride it out for Mark Jackson. I mean,
I just thought that it was interesting. His name completely disappeared from the Lakers.
They have 3 finalists, and it's like, okay, Atkinson. I mean, it makes sense. I think with the Lakers situation, they need someone. I think probably after the Vogel years, they probably look for somebody more creative offensively, and that was never Mark's staple. Was never creative offense. So maybe that, but at this point, we're almost all just guessing with Mark. And I've talked to people who know Mark. Here's another thing too. Mark makes a pretty good salary doing TV, and he's not probably going to take a pay cut to go deal with a losing team. I mean, he's probably making like $5 million a year, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It would have to take a nice, probably a bump in pay for him to walk away from that type of money. So, I mean, there's probably a chance that say even if the Kings did like him and we're going to hire him, he said, I got to make $6 million a year because I'm making 5 or 5.5 doing TV. And the Kings could say no. So I think that's also a part of it too, that someone mentioned to me, and part of it is too, is that there's been so many things said about Mark. Some of that Mark has probably never really addressed, that it's easy to kind of discredit him because someone called it a smear campaign. I wouldn't go as far as call it a smear campaign, but there are people who do not like Mark Jackson, and they put it out there to make sure they don't like Mark Jackson.
I just think it's interesting he disappeared from the Lakers conversation after the Kings hired Mike Brown.
I do too, but I mean, with the Lakers, you got so many people in the, you've got like the official team, but then you got Phil over here, you got Magic over here, you got me, you got Ice Cube, they got Jack Nicholson, Flea. Everyone gets to stay with the Lakers. So who knows what happened with that? But I was surprised that, especially when the report comes, that report doesn't come out by accident that LeBron would like Mark Jackson.
Right.
And then it's almost like sometimes I think that the Lakers are almost going out of their way to prove that LeBron doesn't want to run the franchise, when it's like, it's okay. Go ahead and hire Tyronn Lue. It's okay. Don't, prove it some other way. Don't prove it with, your coach, and then you're going to what you're in right now.
Yeah. Hey, the basketball gods shine down on the Sacramento Kings just a little bit. One time, for the first time in a couple years, I guess. But we get the number 4 pick in the draft. The first 3 seem to be set, but you never know with that. And then you got the second 3, which is what it looks like the Kings have to choose from, with Shaedon Sharpe, Jaden Ivey, and Keegan Murray. Jason Jones, who would you pick if you were general manager of the Sacramento Kings?
First, I'm going to say poor Kings, of course, in the 3-player draft, they get the 4th pick.
I think the draft is pretty deep, though.
When you say, 1 through 3 is pretty much set, that would make it easy. But then again, we thought that a few years ago. You're like, okay, you're number 2. You just take whoever they don't take, either Luka or Ayton, and they didn't do that. So I shouldn't assume that. But me, if I can, I'm trying to trade that pick.
Really?
I'm trying to get some help. Unless you believe one of these guys can be a superstar, they don't need another 6'4" guard who's kind of sort of this. They need some help.
But do you think you can get a superstar with that 4?
Not a superstar,
All-star?
You mean can they trade it for a superstar?
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
not. But I mean, you could probably get, I would at least explore that, see what's out there in terms of veterans who might be able to help you quicker. I would explore it. I mean, I like it. If you're going to be at 4, you take one of the 2 guys to me take a guy with the most upside, because you're picking 4. You may not pick that high again, and it all depends. I'm against drafting for need at 4, so part of me says you get the wing player, but if that guard is going to be the best of the 3, you take the guard and you roll the dice with it. Like I said, to me, the lottery, you don't draft for need. You take the best player and you figure it out. If that means trading, De'Aaron in 2 years, so be it. If that means moving on from another guy you like, so be it. You get the best player. And, based on what I read and everything, I don't know who that guy is. I mean, is it sharp? It could be any of the 3. But to me, this is not where you play it safe. You don't play safe and go, okay, well, this guy here might be the most ready now. No, get the guy who will be the best player in 2-3 years.
It's a direct shot at me right there. It's fine.
Hey,
D'Lo catching strays from Jason Jones.
This is just my draft philosophy. My draft philosophy. You're in the lottery. Go get somebody who can help you down the road. I mean, because even if you say if you think Murray is the safe player, you take him. He could be a solid player, but in 2 years, you still might be winning 35 games. But if you get a guy who might,
if in 2 years they're winning 35 games, that has less to do with Keegan Murray and more to do with the other 2.
I mean, true, but I'm just saying that in terms.
But your point, I get
your
point.
I mean, it wouldn't be poor Keegan Murray's fault. I mean, at that point, you'd be 20 years almost into a playoff drought. I'm not going to blame Keegan Murray for that. Like,
we're going to blame Keegan Murray if Shaden Sharp or Jaden Ivey are like these massive superstars. Then it is Keegan Murray's fault.
Yeah, then poor Keegan Murray will be sitting in Sacramento getting the Bagley treatment. And then like, see, why did we draft you? He's like, man, I was just sitting in the green room and they called my name.
What you want me to do? Say no?
What you want me to do? Say no, take that guy. No, don't take me. I'm not going to be any good. But yeah, I would explore trade options. But yeah, I don't know who it is, but you got to go for a guy who's going to be the best player. Do not go for he helps us get to 40 wins next year guy. Go for the guy who in 2 years you're saying gets us in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's an alternate universe, maybe not that alternate, but about people suggesting the Kings trade up into the top 3. Out of those 3 guys, the consensus 3 guys, Jabari, Chet, and Paolo. You have any idea of like who you like the best out of those 3 guys?
I like Jabari just from what I've seen and what I heard, but I'm no draft expert. I'd be lying if I was like I've broken down their games and all that stuff. To me, he seems to have the most upside. He seems to be like the modern big for the NBA, and so I like that. But if you're going to trade up, who are they going to package with that? What are you going to give a team? If you're Orlando, what do the Kings have that you want to take outside of more picks?
Well, yeah, I mean that's. Well, I'm just going to say in recent years, it's been a draft. It's been a swap, and then like next year's pick. That's usually how it goes. So it's usually not players involved. It's usually
that's Luka and Trey, right? It was
and I think Dallas might have put a little extra on that too. But even still, are you willing to basically smooth? I mean, that guy better be a star because you're basically giving up a lottery pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
And you better not be.
Well, they probably will be giving up a lottery pick in that scenario. They probably will be. So in that scenario, you got to
settle down.
But also in that scenario, I just think it all depends on where you're moving up. If it's only a couple to get to number 1, that's one thing. But maybe a team like Oklahoma City who wants to collect picks says, "Okay, hey, we'll do this with you. We don't mind. We're going to suck next year anyway, and we know it." Mm-hmm. And then maybe you sweeten it with you give them a veteran who they then turn in, then Presti turns into like 5 first-round picks or something crazy like he seems to always do every year. Like, let me turn Al Horford into more picks. It's a bit,
Celtics legend Al Horford.
Celtics legend.
Celtics Hall of Famer. His number, that 42 will be up there right by Paul Pierce.
Cornbread Maxwell.
Yeah, forget about him. It's Al Horford's world.
We had an Al Horford game in this playoffs. Like let's not forget the Al Horford game against.
We had a Grant Williams game.
Yeah, legend Grant Williams.
And I wondered too if it was weird about this year is that there's not that extra travel day off anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering that's why some of these games are just so bad. I mean, God, like this Celtics series has just been blowout, big. I'm like, get these guys an extra day.
20-point lead in each game.
Yeah, it's just it's just weird, and I look at how, of course, because they played a game 7. Phoenix comes up, Dallas leaves Phoenix, goes straight to San Francisco, plays 2 games, a day off between game 2 and 3. You can't tell me those guys aren't feeling that right now.
Yeah.
So I just, you got to feed the TV monster. Can't, got to pay the bills, but
Dallas will have plenty of time to rest at 9:00 tonight.
Oh man.
And
we'll have plenty of time to speculate whether or not Luka was really drinking beer at lunch.
No, my. Although we've gone.
Like I said on Twitter, if you're worried about a guy having a beer, let me tell you what some guys really do in their off time, and you're going to be disgusted. He smokes what? And he does what? He does. Yeah. He drinks way more than beer, too. That's a light drink. I just couldn't believe that was a big deal either. Like, oh my God, look, like a grown man had a beer at lunch. Wow. And they said the picture was fake, or was it an old picture?
Yeah, they had to address it for some reason. I don't know.
The guy,
and that's why they're getting beat up by the Warriors. Is because Luka had a beer.
Those players from the 80s laugh at Luka having a beer at lunch when they were like, snorting powder and whatnot and all that stuff. They laugh at he had a beer. And
that was at halftime. That wasn't even at lunch. That was in the locker room. Bill Laimbeer was chugging beers like they were Gatorades during halftime of the finals.
They laughed. Oh, Luka had a beer at lunch. Oh yeah, I'm sure he's gonna really struggle because of that.
Halftime was a movie. There's a lot of things going on in halftime.
Yeah, some of these halftime stories are amazing. It's like 12 minutes. You get all of that.
They got time to do all of that.
I'm like, man, there should be a documentary just on halftime.
That's coming to HBO next year.
It's simply entitled Halftime. That's going to be the name of it.
The Forum Club at halftime. Like that's what it'll be. Jay, we appreciate you
playing the game. What are you doing?
Walking out the locker room like
I got 11 minutes.
I'm good. Let's go.
Man. Jason, we appreciate you, man. Thanks as always. Hey, quick thoughts on Kendrick Lamar's new album. I don't think we talked about that yet?
I love it. Kendrick's the GOAT now. He's the greatest of all time.
Where would you?
That's a little excessive.
No, it's not.
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
He's not greater than Jay.
So
yes, he is. Jay got a lot of skips on his albums. People from the 90s don't want to.
They don't like to talk about that.
We would
like to talk about it.
Go play In Your Lifetime Volume 2 again and see how many songs you skipped.
Tell them.
All right, we're doing that.
Jay got a lot of skips.
Jay-Z got 5 albums where you don't skip. So we're 5 for 5.
Okay, but Jay-Z also has like 15 albums.
All right, well, don't act like you take Jay's top 5, you take a verse Kendrick's top 5. I think Jay got him still.
I think Kendrick
and we only taking that. That's what we judging the careers on now? Just your 5 albums? I love
people anointed Biggie the GOAT after 2.
I know, and people say it's crazy.
I do. I think it's crazy too, because we never get to me, longevity matters. Were you just a comment in the music game, or did you, after that first, that first second one, could you come again with another one, then another one?
Mm-hmm. See, and that's where Jay really gets a lot of love in this, and Kendrick too. Is like Cube kind of played himself out of the GOAT conversation. Like when you look at Cube's first 5 releases, if you count Straight Outta Compton, We Want Easy, Death Certificate, America's Most Wanted. Even I don't know why people don't like the Predator. The Predator is phenomenal. Like those 5 albums right there that doesn't even include Kill It Will. Those 5 albums right there are phenomenal. But then
Q's
comes like
intro run is one of the greatest runs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the intro run is special. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that I'll put that run to start a career against anybody's.
Yeah.
And say, that'll be tough to beat. That's tough to beat. But part of it is, Cube, got more focused on he became more known for acting, and then the albums weren't what they were before, and people weren't feeling it the same way. I mean,
nobody's bumping War and Peace.
Yeah, I was, man. I was playing that in college.
I know you were.
But but I always tell people I can't be the judge of a Cube album because I'm extremely biased.
Yep.
And so take me out the conversation. I always tell people, to me, Cube may not be the greatest of all time, but he's my favorite of all time. And there's a difference. And I can ride, I can hear people announce that Cube was never good. I'm like, now you're lying.
That's crazy.
Nah, come on, man.
I was like,
Cube
it's 50-something years old now.
It's a terrible way to phrase this, but if Cube had been killed after America's Most Wanted, he'd be listed as the greatest rapper of all time.
Or he'd be Big L.
He'd be what?
Big L.
No, he'd be
that's stupid.
No,
that's insane.
He wouldn't be Big
that's
L.
insane.
A little bigger.
I mean, can I remove Kenny from this broadcast? Is there like that? That's ridiculous.
Big L.
That's absurd. I'm ending this show, but Jesse chimes in. Who is Big L? Like, hip hop heads know who Big L is. Kenny, calm down. This conversation's over. Jason, thanks so much for joining us.
You're disqualified from discussing music for that comment.
Forever, absolutely forever. Jay, we appreciate you, man. Thanks as always.
Take care.